After a quarter century, more than, hashtag I feel old now, of doing hair professionally, I'm gonna share in this video 5 reasons that I have learned that your hairstyle is wrong for you. And more importantly, how you can get a haircut that not only works for you, but you actually love. So, why don't we dive into that? Before we do dive in, I wanna say a huge thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. We'll talk more about them here in a little bit. That view does not suck at all. Okay, so the first reason is what I like to call being length inappropriate. At the end of the day, if you have a certain length that you feel the absolute most confident in and you will not go shorter than that, or you will not feel comfortable going shorter than that or having longer than that, then you need to start with that as a baseline. Figure out your comfort zone, work from there. Okay, now taking that into consideration, let me walk you through these steps and kind of hear me out here. Length will dictate everything about a haircut. It dictates how long the layers need to be, how short they can be, how much layering there can be, how we create volume, where we want to create volume to accentuate certain aspects of a face shape versus just having larger hair. If you've watched any of my series called Hair Mistakes That Age You Faster, subscriber edition, where I actually walk you through potential mistakes that people are actually making with their hairstyles currently, then you have likely seen how much a small shift in length will create a massive impact on what's going on with the person's particular face shape, or moving us in a direction of being able to accentuate things about their face shape that they want to accentuate. So the length plays a huge role. There are also certain aspects where texture of hair only allows for certain lengths, or kind of somewhat dictates a certain length. Let's imagine that your hair is very thick and maybe it's got some wave to it. So you have a lot of hair and your goal is to have long hair, right? You want it maybe down past the bra strap, but you also want a lot of volume in it, right? You want a lot of lift up in the top. Well, that length is going to dictate that the layers in the back have to be long enough to balance. If they're too short, they're going to start looking kind of like a mullet. If that's what you want, you're golden. But if you don't want that, then you're going to be very limited. You know, when the layers are long like that, even though those layers are shorter than the length, what you're gonna find is they're still too long and heavy to create volume where you want to create volume. So you're still gonna end up with a flat top, and you're going to have fuller hair, which may be the opposite of what you're trying to create, creating volume in kind of the wrong areas. Simply bringing that length up a little bit is going to allow us to take the layers shorter and create more volume in the areas that you want to create volume, and push you in a direction of actually getting a style that you want. So you're giving up a little bit of that length, but maybe you love the style a whole lot more. It's a bit of a payoff. Okay, so the second reason is what I like to call wrong person, wrong decision. Now, before I dive into this, let me just kind of back up here. I am fully aware there is a certain aspect of this where maybe, for instance, your spouse wants your hair to be a certain way, and maybe that's not how you ideally would want it. However, you do get a lot of joy and you feel good about appeasing what they want. And if that makes you feel great, then you need to do that, right? But many times I see when a loved one want your look to be a certain way, more often than not, that's not necessarily because that's what's best or what they actually want. There's a certain amount of nostalgia involved. Maybe it's the way that you've always looked, or maybe it's the way that a parent or grandparent is supposed to look. They've got some sort of thing in their mind, and that's what they're dictating this look on. It isn't necessarily what you look best in, because you aren't really actually in this equation. Make sense? Yes. So if that is the situation, then ultimately, let me be the one to tell you that you need to do what feels the best for you. I promise you, if you feel better in what you're wearing and you feel more confident, that confidence is going to radiate through whoever is in your life that wants you to look a certain way. And at the end of the day, both of you are going to be happier. I have a pretty specific relationship when it comes to confidence, and there's a very specific reason that building confidence is such an important aspect of this channel. True story, I remember when I was 21 years old and I was actually working at that time as a professional stylist at my parents' salon, and I had a new client. She sat down in my chair and we went through the consultation process, and at the end of the consultation she said, well, you know, I don't trust you. And I was like, well, why don't you trust me? And she said, and I kid you not, you look like you're 12. And it was actually at that moment that it became very important for me to help people never feel like that again. I didn't like the way that felt at all. And what I learned, though, was that There are a few ways that I could help myself be more confident, and they actually worked. Actually, come here. Now, the first thing was to learn as much about hair as I possibly could learn so I could be the best stylist that I possibly could be. And the second thing was to dress better. Presenting myself a certain way always gave me more confidence. The third thing really made a big difference. And that was, hey, babe.
Hey.
How do I smell?
Smell delicious.
Smells good, right?
It does smell good.
Scent. Which is why I was super excited about Scentbird when we decided to do this collaboration together, because this service is amazing. I can go on their website, I can answer some questions, and then based on the answers to those questions, they help me find different scents that I could fall in love with. If you're unfamiliar with what Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service where you get to actually try out designer fragrances every month for only $16. The vials are 8 times bigger than regular samples, which means you actually have enough to use for the entire month. And even though the vials are large enough to last, they're also still small enough to make travel easy, which is awesome because Dion and I are actually able to bring them with us to Mexico, where we are right now.
Because he only allows us to do carry-on.
I don't like to check things in. Okay, so this month, Scentbird sent us 4 scents, 2 main ones that we kind of picked. Now, I picked Winter Oak by Raw Spirit, which I absolutely love. Which one did you get?
He's a huge fan.
Huge fan.
I got Sugarful by Michael Germain.
Now, Winter Oak is right up my alley because it's got notes of aged American oak, layers of suede, saffron, premium Haitian vetiver, and musk. Now, Diana has a wild sweet strawberry with a pink peony spun with really amazing kind of a cotton candy. It's got musk, seductive sandalwood.
It smells like pink looks, right?
Yeah, it does. You're going to get more suggestions based on what you liked. So it's going to kind of narrow it down even more and more. I'm excited for next. I love my scent already.
Yeah.
I don't know what next month is going to be like. Okay, so if you want to check Scentbird out, there's a link below. Make sure that you use my special code Justin55 so that you can save 55% off of your first month with Scentbird, which brings it down to only like $7 for that first month. They also do have exciting news for you. Now, Scentbird is actually available in Canada too. That's awesome. So Scentbird, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. And you guys, hit down below. Go smell better. Promise, it definitely doesn't suck. All right. Now, reason 3 is something that I call using terms. I know we've all been in a situation where you saw maybe a photo in a magazine, or maybe you had a friend that got this incredible haircut, or maybe you just heard this term on TV, right? And then you went into your stylist and you said, I want the Bixie. You might know a Bixie as what you saw in a particular magazine, but your stylist, one, may not be up with the trend, so they might not even have ever heard of a Bixie, or they think of a Bixie as something completely different, which may be far shorter than what you're speaking of, or far longer than what you're speaking of. Here's the thing, many stylists use different terms. Now this goes beyond just saying things like Bixie or a specific hairstyle name, especially if it's trendy, but it goes into any term that you may have used, even thinning versus texturizing, or terms like that. Depending on where your stylist or any stylist went to school, or where they maybe went through their apprenticeship program, or what salon they're currently working in, all of these things will have an impact on the terms or the verbiage that they use in specific situations. And so when you say, I think that we need to this, or I like my hair when it's done like this, that might mean something completely different to them, and then you find yourself with something that doesn't really work, and maybe it's so nuanced that you don't even know why it doesn't work. Instead of trying to use terms or specific verbiage, instead, I always say the best thing you can do is just find photos. Now, reason number 4 is what I like to call the mismatch. So the mismatch is when you mismatch your style to either your lifestyle or your just overall style in general. For instance, if you're extremely time restricted or just are not going to spend the time styling your hair, but then you get a haircut and it requires a lot of day-to-day maintenance to really kind of make it look good, you're likely never going to actually end up styling. Usually what ends up happening is either you don't style it, you let it air dry, or you pull it back if it's long enough and put it in a ponytail. The style never really looks polished, and so you kind of end up never feeling your best because you kind of feel like you never really look your best. Does that make sense? Okay, so the 5th reason that your hairstyle isn't working for you answers the question that I get asked almost daily. How do I find the right stylist? That's the problem. this is the question I get asked. So the first thing that I would do is start figuring out a shape or a style that you like, or certain aspects of certain styles that you like. Many times I tell people to take in a photo and they immediately think that they inherently need to go find the exact photo of whatever hairstyle that they want. That isn't necessarily true. What actually works very well is to start looking through magazines and see certain things about certain hairstyles that you like and or don't like. Maybe you think the bangs are too short on this one style, but you like the length on another one. So you bring in both of those photos and you express both of those concerns. You use these different photos to help the stylist understand without terms what you want out of your hair. And then that allows them to work with you and the two of you to together decide what's going to not just work well in terms of what you like, but also work well for your texture as well as expressing your lifestyle. Now, the next thing is to start calling around to salons or ask your friends with similar hair texture as yours where they're going, and then start calling around and seeing if any of them have apprenticeship programs. Now, many times, if you find a salon with an apprenticeship program, you at least know that the stylist has gone through school, but then after school, they went to advanced training, as opposed to going through school, becoming licensed, and then hitting the floor immediately. Now, it's not to say that every stylist that doesn't go through an apprenticeship program isn't going to be good. It's simply to say that it is another layer of education, so an apprenticeship program is always going to be a good bet. Now, if you do find a salon with an apprenticeship program, one word or term that you can use is saying, I would like to make an appointment with a senior stylist. Now, a senior stylist simply means that that stylist has been around that salon long enough and built a clientele large enough to say that they know how to retain clients, have a high retention rate. You're likely, one, doing good work, but also you have a certain level of customer service that is bringing people back into your chair and not just leaving after the first sit down. And then what I would suggest, and this kind of goes for any situation where you're trying a new stylist, is calling up and asking if you can book just a consultation. All you want to do is you want to sit down with this person for 5 or 10, 15 minutes. You want to go through the photos that you've collected. You want to talk to them about your concerns. You want to show them kind of what direction you want to head so that the two of you can work together and figure out something that's going to work well for you. And then you really are just trying to feel out whether or not you feel comfortable. I think more often than not, we sit down in a stylist's chair, you realize you're not feeling that comfortable 15 minutes into it. By that time, you feel too awkward to walk out because you're already 15 minutes into it. This way, you know that you're not getting a haircut, you're not scheduled for a haircut, and you just simply got to go through the consultation and determine whether or not you want to come back. Kind of like having an exit strategy to a party that you don't want to be at. Kind of awesome. So yes, those are my 5 reasons that, well, you may be finding yourself in a haircut that you don't love. And more importantly, if you follow those steps, you'll figure out a way to find a haircut that you do love, that does work for you and all the good stuff. So again, don't forget to click on that link below and use this code so that you can get 55% off your first month at Scentbird, support the channel, and smell good. And again, thank you Scentbird for sponsoring this video. And otherwise, if you have any questions about any of this, you know where to find me, put those comments below. And I will see you next Tuesday. But for now, that sun is getting very bright and that view doesn't suck. So I'm gonna hang out here on the beach. Check this out. Yeah, yep, tough life. But you know, somebody's gotta do it. Yeah, that does not suck at all, folks. Are you kidding me? You know, you can't even like swim in this. No, it's too heavy. I'll die.